This is Jessica Lutzen, and this is my community plan project. This presentation is going to talk about the plan I created to address the issue that I found in my small community. I'm going to look at the risks screen time presents and the amount of screen time spent in school and at home. Then I'm going to look at different ways to limit this time so that students can enjoy the outdoors and use their imaginations. Not always limiting is the best option, but for school, I'm going to try and tweak the lesson plans to be able to incorporate physical activity and the technology. The definition of my community, my community is an extremely small town in rural Wisconsin, central Wisconsin. It has limited activities and very few places to shop. The windshield survey presented that the town is very small and the main portion of it all sits on one block. It mostly consists of private, small businesses such as a laundromat, a hardware store, and a small gas station. There are no big chain stores in the immediate town I live in. This gas station does have a convenience store, but it doesn't provide everything anyone would need. To get these extra things, we would have to travel 20 miles for a grocery store or a Walmart. I also discovered that about 50% of the houses in the country and in the small town part of my community, 50% look run down while the other 50% look very clean and well kept. The community assessment presented a lack of kids outside, even on the nice day that I drove around. There wasn't any kids outside on the playgrounds, and any of the kids that you did see were on some sort of electronic, telephone, tablet, you name it. They weren't just playing outside. The community partners I worked with were two elementary school teachers, Chrissy and Megan. Chrissy is also a mom to two little girls, so I also used her as well as a teacher, as a parent, to be able to incorporate her in that aspect of the technology use as well. The community diagnosis I came up with was decreased amounts of physical activity creates the risk for diabetes and other health problems in kids between the ages of 5 and 10, related to the increased use of screens such as tablets or computers. Based off of this diagnosis, the health plan I came up with was to increase the amount of time kids spend outside playing and using their imagination, and to decrease the amount of time they spend on computers or in front of the television. The interventions I used to implement this new plan, I created two different ones. One's to use at school and one's to use at home. The ones for at school I used include using one big smartboard, which is an interactive screen that you can interact with and do activities with. It is still a technology. So I came up with the idea of using just that one screen instead of all having individual tablets. And this way, students have to get up and move to be able to interact and use the technology, still using the same form of lesson plans that they previously have been using. I also thought of getting creative when teaching these lessons. For example, when you're learning math skills, using the students to show this plus this equals this. Also, when you're doing history lessons, if you are learning about a certain culture and they have a specific dance or tradition, implementing it or practicing it in the classroom to give them a chance to experience this tradition gets them up and moving and involved in the lesson plans. At home, I created a brochure that will aim to get the kids outside. I came up with a list of games to play outside in the summer and then things to do that is available during the winter months. On this brochure, I also included the benefits of physical activity and healthy eating, as well as the risks screen time presents. When it comes to evaluating the implementation of these interventions, I would check in with the schools at the end of the year to see how they implemented these alternative lesson plans, because it's not going to be an immediate action activity. It's going to take time and adjustment and seeing what works for that teacher in that classroom with those students. And it's also dependent on the types of lessons you do. Some things might work better for a math lesson than a history lesson. I also will be able to evaluate it by driving through town in a summer afternoon, seeing how many kids are outside versus how many when I first did the assessment. In conclusion, I was able to look at the time spent on computers and to give them a chance to make physical activity and the decreased amount of technology work in classrooms. These are my references, and that is my project.